Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is the Political Brown Kid here on a Sunday afternoon, or Sunday evening, should I say. It's February 5th, and it's really at exactly 8 p.m. I just kind of wanted to just drop this on people just to show, I've been talking about this for a while, just as far as for the breakdown between black male, black female relationships. Of course, if you're paying attention online and you follow this red pill community, you'll probably see other videos that counter it from female perspectives. You just see the lack of respect from both sides in regards to how we talk to one another and treat one another. And it kind of goes back to a book that I used to pick up, or that I had. Actually, a female stole it from me back in the 90s. It was a book called Biblical Legacies of the Black Race. You can't even find this book anymore. I actually got it when I used to be in my college days up on Georgia Avenue, right at Georgia Avenue and Hobart Street, the famous Hobart All Stars in DC. And there was a bookstore called Pyramid Bookstores. Wonderful bookstore. You can get any Nubian Afrocentric book that you wanted there. And it was a book called Biblical Legacies of the Black Race. You can find it online, but they want like $50 and $60 for it. I'm thinking about still picking it back up because I enjoyed the book. In the book, basically, I do believe it was this book. The book basically quoted, it used Bible verses. And trust me, I'm not a big person and believer in the Bible and as it being written as true historical fact, but I do believe that the Bible does have some information that you can take from it. But the book, Biblical Legacies of the Black Race, and I do believe it was this book. I hope I'm not mixing my books up, but it would quote various books of the Bible and show you how it references black people and the curses that were put on us. And some of those curses would be, your nations would be divided and you wouldn't get along. There would be further breakdowns between the peoples, and the peoples would be divided, and so forth, so forth. They went through a whole bunch of other different stuff. And you can definitely see that in this time, 2023, we're talking about. And you can see how the black female has totally given up on the black male, and the black male has given up on the black female, and so forth and so forth. And I've talked about it on various threads on multiple social media platforms about how when I even go to a store, particularly the grocery store, and if I get into a line and I'm behind a female and there's a female cashier, that female cashier will ring up the lady in front of me, and when that lady's getting rung up, she will greet that person with a salutation. Hello, hey, how you doing? And and her energy's different, and she greets that person. And then as soon as I get up to the register, they just ring my stuff up and be like, 39.50. And that's what they say to me. They'll just give me the quote, or they'll just turn the monitor around like, here's your price. And then, once I pay, I don't get a hey, have a nice day. I don't get a salutation. I don't get a farewell greeting. And, as a person, and I guess maybe I take things personally, but I'm just a person that speaks to everyone. My family's from the South. I believe in having good values. I'm born and raised in DC, but I spent enough time in the South where you have those Southern values where you speak to people. And again, like I said, I see this a lot. And even when I'm on my job, when I'm walking down the hallway, you'll see black females. They'll be walking towards me and I'm walking towards them. There'll be a white guy in front of me and they'll speak and they'll smile and their energy's different. And they're like, hey, how you doing? And they'll speak. And then when they walk past me, it's like, and I say, hey, how you doing? It's just so you can tell that they don't want to speak, or that there's a nervousness or uncomfortableness there. And we're getting to the point where black females and black males don't know how to interact with one another. We don't know how to talk to one another. And from my perspective, I've been just rejected by black females altogether, like I say, in these social settings where it's like I'm even hesitant to even speak now, because it's kind of like, do I even speak to them? Because normally they don't speak to me. And we don't want to get that far down a path where we're like that and treating each other like that. Now, maybe it's something with me. Maybe I'm just the only one going through this and I'm giving off a creepy vibe. I have no idea. So maybe other black males aren't experiencing this, but I know I am. And so I've gotten to the point now where I'm just defensive, where I'll just get in a cashier's line and I'm like, well, I'm the customer, so I don't have to speak. You have to speak to me. And so therefore we'll just have a standoff and I just get rung up. I just hand my money, they hand me my stuff and I'm on my way. And I think that that's a bad thing to do. But I'm bringing that up because I want to bring up two examples that happened to me, just one just today and another yesterday, February 4th, Saturday. So the event that happened today was I went to the grocery store again, bought my stuff, came outside. Now, again, it's February 5th. This was Sunday morning, early this morning, around 11 a.m. So it was a young black girl set up. A young sister, young black female. She was set up, had her little Girl Scout stand going. And so anytime I see the Girl Scouts set up, I like to support them because, they're trying to sell stuff and I try to encourage people to have that sales mentality, encourage them with sales. And she was standing there with her father. Um, so black male, he looked like to be in my age range. So I went to my car, I put my groceries in my car, and then I came back. I walked straight towards her because that's how my car was parked, and she was facing directly in my aisle. And I walked straight towards her. And when I got to her little table set up, I looked at each of the individual cookies, and I'm standing there, and she's standing right in front of me, doesn't say a word. She just stands there. And this girl looks to be about between 12 and 14 or 11 and 13, somewhere around there. Doesn't say a word. She just stands there, stands straight up, stone face. And her father's just standing there. So I'm just thinking, man, this is just poor behavior. So I'm like, now I'm getting it from little kids. I'm getting this from little kids. So I look at each of the cookies, Do-si-dos, Samoas. Samoas are my favorite, but I do not need cookies. I'm trying to get my weight down. I look at each of the cookies. I know she's not speaking, so I said, man, bump this. So I'm getting ready to walk away, but then a fire truck pulls up right and parks right on the side at the curb, right where she's at. And about 5 white firefighters got out. And when they get out and they're walking into the grocery store, the girl is like, hey, how you doing? Hello. And so she's speaking to the 5 white males that go by and they're like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And they walk into the store. So then I turn around and then I leave and I just turn around and I'm walking straight down the aisle. And I hear her father say something like, don't speak or can't speak. So I thought he was talking about me not speaking to her. So I turn around and I say to him, excuse me, what did you say? Well, I said, excuse me. No, I said, excuse me, can you repeat that? Because I didn't say, what did you say? Because that would have been challenging. So I said, excuse me, can you repeat that? And so he looked at me and he said, yeah, I was telling her. He said, yeah, I can. I was telling her, you got to speak to your customers. You got to speak to people. And so I said, exactly. And I said, and that's why I didn't buy anything. And then I turned back around and I said, that's why I didn't buy anything because I got no greeting at all, but yet she greeted the 5 white men that walked past. And then I turned back around and I went to my car. But it's gotten to the point now where I have to be disrespectful to little 11 and 12-year-old girls, but they're being disrespectful towards me. It's kind of like Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man. Everywhere you go, you can't get recognized by, or at least I can't, by black females. The second story that I want to tell is this. I put in an offer for a house. So earlier this week, everything's happening this week. So around Tuesday, which would have been like January 30th, I put in an offer for a house. I gave them 5,000 over what their ask price was. So I'm like, no contingencies besides your typical home appraisal. And I gave you 5,000 over. So what's the problem? The agent just didn't respond back to my agent. They just sent a generic email like, we got your response and we'll be presenting this evening. So I'm like, okay, well, when are we going to hear something? I knew that the house was having an open house the coming Saturday, which was February 4th. So that's why I got my offering to kind of, so that they probably wouldn't have to do the open house. and to kind of beat any other competition that may be coming in. The agent never responds. My agent's like, I haven't heard from this agent, and I hate dealing with this type of brokerage. It's a big, popular nationwide brokerage that kind of does discount brokerage. I can't say do it yourself. They do partially do it yourself. You can probably figure out who they are. They never respond. And so I knew what was going on. And people who, if you've ever bought a house before, if you ever bought and sold property before, you know that sometimes agents will use your contract or your offer to drive up the price and get other offers in the door. That's what they do. They'll tell other potential buyers, yeah, I got an offer coming in, or yeah, we got an offer and it's high. So you submit your best offer. Or they'll say, can you do better than XYZ because this is what we currently have. So they do that to jack up their price. So my thing was, don't sit on my offer. I've given you 5,000 over. Either you want to take my offer or not. But I knew that they were going to sit on it to the open house so that they can get more bids in the door because this house was getting a little bit of traffic, even in this market and even in February. So Saturday comes, which was yesterday. I go to the open house and I see the agent. So I said, yo, so you're the agent. I'm not going to mention the agent's name. So I said, yeah. And I said, I submitted in my offer. She said, oh, yeah, we got it. And so I said, yeah, and I know what you're doing, that you're sitting on my offer to drive up the bids. And she said, well, if I was, and this is a black female looked to be in her 50s. And so she said, yeah, well, if I was your agent, wouldn't you want me to do the same for you? And so the only thing I said to her was, I don't think that that's fair. I don't think it's right. I submitted in my offer on Tuesday. It's now Saturday. It's now 5 days later. I said, I said, I kind of don't appreciate that. And I said, but I see what I said, oh well. And so I just continued to look around the house. And then I just asked her, I left it at that. I wasn't challenging with her. I just said it in a regular demeanor as I'm talking now. And then I just turned the conversation to, oh, yeah, what about that? I asked about some of the features in the house again, because this was my second time walking back through it. And so after that, I said, I'm just going to walk around. I made sure, and let me just add this too. I made sure to approach her about my offer and the fact that, I kind of wanted an answer, and I thought that that wasn't professional to not, either accept my offer, reject it, or counter it, immediately. Why just sit on it, or even just let us know that, we'll be accepting and reviewing offers, and we'll let you know by February 9th, February 10th, whatever date you're going to be presenting offers. Say something, communicate. But I made sure to let her know that when no other people at the open house were around. There was only one other family, and they were in the basement, and they were talking because I could hear them talking, or I could hear their voices. I couldn't hear their conversation. So she was like, okay. I walk around the house, I go into the basement. One thing about this house, and I'll tell you this, is that when me and my agent had viewed the house earlier that week, the treads going into the basement, the landings, where you put your feet at going into the basement, they were shallow. Normally you'll see treads about 10 inches long, 10 inches deep, where you can step on and go down the steps. These look to be about 6 to 8 inches maybe. Very shallow treads, and the steps were kind of steep. I remember my agent telling me, be careful going down these steps. So when I go down the steps on this open house day, I stand at the window that's right at the bottom of the steps, but it's not directly at the bottom of the steps. It's kind of like 5 feet to the left of the basement steps. So as I'm standing looking out the window, all I hear is, then I look over, and it's a white female had tumbled down the steps, and her shoe, literally, her head is against the wall. Her shoes are like at her shoulders. So her shoes came off. And I calmly looked at her and I said, are you okay? I didn't want to, approach her because, people nowadays in 2023 don't want you touching them. If I had gone over there, she may have been like, I don't need your help. I don't know. So I just asked her first, are you okay? And she was like, I'm fine. And then her husband came because he came in the basement before she did, but he went around the corner and he came and helped her up. And then we were in the basement together. And then when I was in one room, they were in the main part, standing at the window where I was, but I had gone to the back. And I could hear her crying, but she was kind of crying and then kind of laughing and then crying, like, and sniffling and then laughing. So I thought that maybe, maybe she's crying out of embarrassment, but then she's also laughing. And then she kept saying, ow, ow, like, so I could hear little things that was going on. So I go back upstairs. Well, then they leave. They view the basement and then they go outside and then they leave. So I gave the house a good once over again because I knew that I had an offer. So I wanted to soak in everything with the property. I go back upstairs, go into the kitchen where the agent was sitting, the black female that I had talked to earlier. And so then she was just like, "You've looked at the house?" I said, "Yeah." And then she said, "Well, thanks for coming back and looking at it. And hopefully we'll have an answer to you by, tomorrow," which is today, which I still haven't heard from her. So I said, "Okay." And I said, "Oh, yeah." And I think y'all go, because she even went up, and let me say this too. When the lady fell down the steps, she even checked on the lady as well. So she knew the lady had fallen. We all knew that she fell. So fast forwarding again. So as I'm talking to the agent and I'm about to leave, I said, "Oh yeah, and you be prepared. I think you're gonna get a lawsuit on your hands." And then I said, "Well, no, not you." And I said, "Not you. I think that the homeowner is going to get sued." And so then I kind of laughed, and I thought she knew what I was talking about. So she kind of laughed too. She said, "Oh, okay," and then she just kind of laughed too. And so I left. I get back home because the house is 10 minutes down the street from where I'm renting. My agent said, who, mind you, my agent hasn't been able to reach this agent all week. He says he's been calling her phone and she hasn't returned any of his calls. He calls me. Well, first he forwards me a text message. And then he calls me and he says, "Did you see the text message that I sent?" So apparently the female had called him, and then she sent him a text. Well, first she sent the text message and then she called him and basically said that I went to the open house and harassed her and threatened her and made her feel uncomfortable. And then I threatened to sue her. And I said, "That never happened." I said, "Well, there's a misunderstanding." I said, "I was talking about when the lady fell down the steps, the homeowner was going to get sued." And I was saying it as a joke. And then, she even laughed it off too. And so after that, I said, "Well, if I can talk to her, just let me know." He said, "I'll communicate it to her." But my thing is, she communicated that to him in writing because she said she was going to note it and report it as an incident. So, because she was letting him know, agent to agent, she felt uncomfortable, she felt threatened, and I threatened to sue. So she was reporting this incident, and she has that in writing because he forwarded me the text. So he calls her back, and then he says, "I squared it away with her. She's fine now." She said, "Oh," he was talking about the falling down of the steps. So after that, I said, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. But can you tell her to at least send a text message back, put that in writing that she understand, because she communicated in writing before that I had threatened her. So she should communicate back, okay, the issue is resolved." And he said, "Yeah, I'll tell her to do that." Because you should communicate consistently. If you communicate in writing, you should communicate your retraction in writing. To this hour, I haven't gotten that retraction, and it's been over 24 hours later. I have not gotten an email response, or my agent has not called me to say that yes, she responded in writing. So I just wanted to bring this point up, and of course I try to keep my videos short because I know people like short videos, but unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. But I'm just wanted to drop that on you just to show the breakdown between black male, black female relationships. And it's whether it's professional, whether it's relationship wise, we're just not getting along. And we need to get to a point where we can come to a common ground and start to respect and love one another. So this is the Political Brown Kid. Just wanted to drop this on you. Please like and subscribe. Need you to do that. And also leave me some comments on your thoughts. So, Political Brown Kid, I'm out.